What's the superpower that coaches have and how that relates to the world we live in, a world powered by technology and AI?
One of the key things probably for coaches which comes to mind is like they are guides, or they help people uncover problems, or they help them figure out things they haven't figured out. But probably what's most interesting is the things that they forgot that they are good at because it comes to them so natural, right? I believe you and I figured out that secret sauce somewhere sitting in between the unspoken language of how they communicate, how they create the space for others.
And there is something I think every coach, a quality or a way of being that coaches have, that is this very ethical approach to communication and the ability to create non-judgmental spaces
Mm.
in communication, right? Because obviously as coaches, we have to be objective and, create a space for the other person to show up. And the way I see it a bit, it's like being a container sometimes. I feel like a coach is more of a space than a person.
Yeah, and it speaks probably to the process of that engagement and less so to the outcomes and outputs of the engagement. And I think that is really a key differentiator here, which is usually highly underrated because it doesn't speak to the outcomes. It speaks to the process which enabled and facilitated the outcome, which has extremely useful dimensions. Coaches are individuals who have practiced enough creating this space, being a space for others, both from from an ethical standpoint and a non-judgmental standpoint. And I think that comes by default. Like no coach basically will say that's a value add I bring to you. It's just like kind of built in. But it doesn't mean it doesn't have value. If anything, it's an extremely valuable measure. And probably like the reason we've missed it so much, because for coaches it's second nature, so they no longer feel it. And for clients, and on the other hand, that's not usually what they think they need. Like they're usually looking, I want to move a career, I want to have better relationship. Like the problem that it feels it's solving, the outcome of it is different.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. It's because at the end of the day, it's that way of being and that quality that the coach brings that makes that possible. For a coach to just be able to listen um, with a very specific quality to the listening, and then also be able to ask you questions and inquire from there, right? So like being able to fully understand you, fully get where you're at, and then also prompt you with the questions that are gonna cause.
The coach becomes the catalyst to surface what's happening within you to what's external to you almost, or bringing it forward. And without that catalyst, that epiphany or that breakthrough never happens. And I think that makes it or breaks it almost.
I also find it very interesting with AI when we are on the topic of communication and coaches. The fact that if you look at humanity as a whole, right? You could say that we're quite average at communication, actually, like in a way, suboptimal. If you just take into account that all other animals excel at whatever they need to survive, right? And we need language to survive. However, we didn't really develop in a way that makes us great communicators. And great communicators are not born, right? Like they're made in a way. And I think that like there is something, this language aspect that comes into AI, where I feel like we already have a bit of an inefficient communication between us as humans. And then we layer that on top with the AI. And specifically, if we look at generative AI, right? And the fact that people now are all using it and they're all writing prompts, and I find it very intriguing how that inefficiency also translates into our use of AI. And within that, I again see coaches as having this skill already. I am noticing that there is a lot of contributions the coaches can actually give to AI.
Technology always amplifies. So if we were already bad in communication, it's just amplifying how bad really we are, right? For some, it was hidden because they didn't really now need to engage. And now as they engage with the AI or generative AIs and these chatbots, they're communicating technically. And it's surfacing how poorly they are communicating, and that's translating in the outputs that it's generating with AI as well, like the cascades. Here again, we have another role because if the source, of if everyone wants to get better at AI, like right, they want to leverage AI much better. Technically, we're saying they need to be better communicators, and in some way, they need help to be able to communicate better. And I think coaches already have that skill inherently. So either in participating in the creation of the technology, they play a role because we're talking about communication here, and not only communication, but communication and understanding of human behavior. It's such a like an interesting intersection, which now we see more and more drifting into technology as well, and is becoming a necessary ingredient in technology, not an afterthought, because of where generative AI is at the moment.
And I also think that technology, in a way, I see as an extension of ourselves. We had phones that at the end of the day we're using all the time. And that is, in a way, becoming an extension of our limbs. And I think that AI is the same. It's an extension of us, even just by the way how it's built with data and it's again taken from humans at the end of the day.
I feel there is no intersection even, like, right, when we start talking about extension. I think we keep saying this versus us versus them, like us versus the technology, but there is no that. There is no us versus the technology. There is, the technology is not only an extension, it's birthed from our thought processes and etc. So whatever it's reflecting or manifesting is us in that respect. And it's fascinating that we're scared of us in a way. If anything, we are scared of our own thinking. We're scared of our own thinking and what it's generating and what's creating, because that's really what AI is doing for the most part.
It goes back a bit to the amplifying, right? It amplifies your fears and your uncertainty of life.